Good morning and welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning. If you're watching us live on Facebook, thank you for that. And if you're checking us out on our website, please remember we do upload these shows to www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. We have audio and video versions there for you to check out. We also put these shows on our YouTube page, so you can check them out there. Getting into your traffic this morning, I-12 is flowing. Some minor delays on those on-ramps. Some minor delays at 4-H Club Road, River Road, and 190, as well as on 64, but still flowing pretty well. Going to be looking at some school traffic again this morning. I know we had a couple of days reprieve from that, but school is back in session. Going to have half those kids back on campus, so please be prepared. If you normally have to deal with school traffic, you're going to have to deal with it this morning. It's currently 82 degrees. 90 degrees is your high today. 76 your overnight low. We're not quite done with this rain just yet. Looking at a 60 to 70% of chance of rain starting at about 1 p.m. going into the evening hours. So a chance the sun might peek out this morning for a brief moment, but looking at some rough thunderstorms this afternoon. Getting into it today, Sheriff Jason Ard had a busy day yesterday. Got an announcement late last night that roughly $2.6 million was going to be coming to his office as a reimbursement for temporary housing he provided for his deputies during the Great Flood, or immediately following the Great Flood, I guess you can say. Sheriff Ard had about 80 deputies that had been pushed out of their homes because they were had been completely flooded, and he needed home sites for those people, for those deputies and their families. He was able to work with the local Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, as well as Congressman Garrett Graves, to work through the process as best as he could, but come up with some ways to get those deputies into housing. What they eventually settled on was mobile homes. He believed they could hold their value, and they were cheaper than the cost of your normal FEMA trailer. Eventually, he got all those deputies in to those homes at about 50% of the cost of what it would have costed the federal government to do it. However, he's just now getting reimbursed as Congressman Garrett Graves has fought in D.C. on his behalf to bring that money back to Louisiana. And eventually, he got the president to sign an amendment and a disaster law into effect that would give local governments a little more leeway in deciding how to respond to these disasters, especially when it comes to things like housing. One of the things that Sheriff Jason Ard was worried about, and why he eventually pulled the trigger, is because he knew that in 2005, after Katrina, St. Bernard Parish had a very similar situation. They had roughly the same number of deputies flood, and eventually some of those deputies just left. Sheriff Jason Ard was concerned about looting, as well as other things, robbery and that kind of thing. After the flood, a lot of people had lost a lot already. So he wanted to make sure that those deputies remained in place so that they could continue the way of life here. That's exactly what happened. There was some controversy in and around that trailer park for a time, but eventually it has been sold off and is now, I believe, going to be developed into a real mobile home park that follows current ordinances. I guess you can say it's currently being discussed at the parish council. But again, that money, about $2.6 million, has come back to the sheriff's office. Again, we talked about him being busy yesterday. Deputies have gone to Allen Parish, which is just north of Lake Charles, to try to help local deputies with, enforcement, as well as trying to do things like clear limbs, move debris, that sort of thing, and trying to help them get their power back on. Because again, that area north of there, very forested and very easy to lose power because there's a lot of trees. So eventually, they're hoping to help them out and stay in the area and move down in the Lake Charles area and help there as soon as it's more safe. Of course, we all know about the chemical fire that began yesterday in the Lake Charles area that is still a danger to those on the ground. So please keep that in mind. You cannot drive through that area, by the way. If you are planning to head to Texas for some sort of business, please be prepared to hit I-49 and drive pretty much all the way up to Shreveport. Maybe a little more south if you know a shortcut through Toledo Bend or something like that, but you're probably going to have to go pretty far north to get up into Texas. Representatives from Fire Protection District 4 and 5, as well as the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, saved a woman, her child, and their dog from a home off of Duff Road after a tree fell on it in the early morning hours of Thursday. The woman thought it was just thunder, and then upon waking up and moving around, realized that they were trapped in the house. Eventually, firefighters and deputies were able to get them out with use of chainsaws and that sort of thing. So thankfully, nobody in that incident was hurt. Good morning, Mr. Jonathan. Thanks for joining us. Speaking about Laura, the storm is now kind of in the border of Arkansas, Missouri, and Tennessee. Continues to move up and over. Looks like it'll begin its track towards the Atlantic Ocean here pretty soon. President Donald Trump is expected to come down to the area and view the damage. He is also expected to open the doors for federal funding. Of course, he approved Governor John Bel Edwards' disaster declaration just earlier in the week, and it will be interesting to see what kind of developments come from the damage that has been done. The storm surge was not quite as bad inland. It was still bad on the coast, but not quite as bad inland as they had originally thought, which is great news for Lake Charles. Great news for Lake Charles. However, there is quite a bit of wind damage. I know we have videos and pictures on our Facebook page if you want to go take a look at those if you haven't already. Lots of wind damage, lots of buildings just completely losing their roofs, a lot of buildings just completely gone. So it's a devastating situation in Lake Charles, especially with that chemical fire going on, and a casino is wedged under the I-10 bridge. So just a terrible scene in Lake Charles. So please keep them in your thoughts. Schools, however, will open today. Of course, kids will head back to Livingston Parish Public Schools as well as LSU, which will be open for classes. Representative Buddy Mincy Jr. Will be hosting a donation drive today from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. They're going to try to fill up a 20-foot container at his office at 1810 Florida Avenue Southwest, Suite B. If you want to call his office to get better directions, you can call 225-667-6088. Again, Representative Buddy Mincy looking to put together a collection drive, non-perishable items, long-lasting food items, toiletry supplies, shirts, anything that you can donate. It's at 1810 Florida Avenue Southwest, Suite B, 225-667-6088. So please go donate. Remember what happened to us after the flood. Remember what life was like here, and please try to open up, if you can, to donate anything you can to send over to Lake Charles. Again, they'll be taking those donations until about 5 p.m., and then they will be heading out probably in the morning. A local podcaster, there you go. A local podcaster by the name of Jim Chapman, who is also a paint sales representative at Farrell Calhoun Paint, is looking to develop a community of local superstars. He has started a new podcast series called Local Leaders, wherein he talks to business leaders and political leaders all throughout the parish, trying to give people an idea of their story and where they come from, and trying to get people, build trust in them in the best way he knows how. Mr. Chapman does work for Farrell Calhoun. It's still a very privately held company, whereas he deals with a lot of publicly held companies, and he knows that they have the huge budgets and a lot of money to just throw at advertising. And so he wants to help these local business owners get their name out, tell their story in a long form podcast setting, which means, anywhere from 45 minutes to some have gone as long as 2 hours. Just giving these folks a chance to tell their story the best way they know how, which is from their point of view. So if you want to check that out, you can find it at paintpodcast.com. You can also look for Chapman's Paint Place Podcast on Facebook and on YouTube. You can go check them out there. Again, like and subscribe, give them a share, try to help these local business owners out as they tell their story about why they went into business, how they got into business, that sort of thing. It's a great series. I myself actually engineer most of them. I do the video and the audio for Mr. Chapman. Getting into your COVID-19 statistics real quick, 145,637 cases. That's an increase of 723 from Wednesday to Thursday. 4,711 deaths, an increase of 23. 1,818,203 tests, 127,918 recoveries, 876 hospitalizations on 145 ventilators. The capital area took a huge dip in unemployment week over week, with the week ending, August 15th. Of course, we're running a few weeks behind per Department of Labor requirements. However, it has dropped to about 43,000, which is a huge dip of almost 13,000 since just the week prior to that. According to the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, who collects the data and presents it, it's their belief that a lot of people were just holding on to the federal benefits because of the enhancement. Once that enhancement ran out, they began seeking work. That massive dip would lend some credence to that, but we will see where that goes going forward. Of course, here in Livingston Parish, we've dropped from about 7,500 to 5,300. So that was a large drop as well, about 25, 30% in between those two percentage numbers. So looking good for unemployment here in the Baton Rouge area. Nationwide still continues to increase at a steady rate. So hopefully a lot of places will turn around like it appears we will here. Of course, there are still plenty of people unemployed. Hopefully this new enhancement will keep them afloat until they can find new work. The CDC has released new guidelines, especially for businesses that have employees. It states that workers shouldn't force mask mandates on individuals that they believe might be dangerous. We've heard a lot of reports nationwide of businesses, especially restaurants, trying to enforce the mask mandate and having people get belligerent or violent with them on site. And so one of the things the CDC is recommending is if you believe that a customer is going to be belligerent or try to come after you for enforcing the mask mandate, just don't worry about it. That's kind of counter to a lot of the mask mandates that have been issued, especially here in Louisiana, where wearing a mask in public is a mandate. It's going to be interesting to see what businesses do with this new information. But it was first sort of made public in Georgia, wherein Governor Kemp is now pushing for masks to be worn, but doesn't have a mandate like some other states. Getting into your mitigation efforts real quick. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds or more. 6 feet or more of distance between yourself and others. Wear a mask in public. Again, it is a mandate. Control your cough and your sneezing with an elbow or a tissue, preferably your own elbow. Don't touch your face, my favorite one. 25 or less to a gathering, preferably less, and stay home if you're sick, and utilize telehealth to get in touch with your doctor, and stay home to work if at all possible. Getting into your traffic again real quick, I-12 is flowing with some minor on-ramp delays. School traffic will begin again today, so a couple of days we're free from that, but it will be on deck today. But only 50% of kids going to school, so that is a good thing. 64 heading into Central is relatively clear right now. Greenville Springs is flowing. It's currently 82 degrees, 90 degrees is your high today, 76 your overnight low. You're looking at a 60 to 70% chance of rain beginning at about the 1 p.m., between 12 and 1 p.m. hour. So we are going to be getting some rain this afternoon. Sun may peek through a little bit this morning, but it's looking like it's going to be, especially if you look outside right now, it's looking like it's going to be a little overcast heading into the day. One last time, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning for the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. Want to remind you guys that we are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We are also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We have a podcast page, which is free, a coronavirus page, which is free, and a breaking news page, which has state and nationwide news as well as arrests and those sorts of things that you can check out that is free. Want to remind folks of the ability to donate. Mr. Buddy Mincy, a state representative, will be at 1810 Florida Avenue Southwest, Suite B in Denham Springs from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. looking to fill a 20-foot container to send to Lake Charles. If you need more information, you can contact his office after 8 a.m. 667-6088. One last time, appreciate you guys joining us. If you are heading to Lake Charles to help the Laura victims, please remember to be careful. Please remember to follow the directions of the local law enforcement and local first responders. And we do hope that you stay safe over the weekend. Try to stay dry this afternoon, and we will see you Monday morning.